Begin today in the Gemara and Daf Pei Amud Beis at the Mishnah middle of the Amud. Sagt Heilige Mishnah Shemeres Yavam. A woman that is waiting for Yibum. So her husband passed away without children. There's the mitzvah of Yibum. The brother of the husband will do the mitzvah of Yibum. So what happens is, we'll see soon in the Mishnah, it'll talk more details about this Yavam. But then at that point, Shenaful Anachasim. She inherits all kinds of monies or properties, whatever it is. What happens with this money that she inherits? It goes to her husband. It should go to the Yavam. But she's not yet married to the Yavam. So Maidim Beishamai and Bisil will both agree. Beishamai and Bisil were the ones that spoke about this and argued about this in the beginning of the Perek regarding an Arusa or a Nesua. So over here they both will agree Shemicheres v'Neisenes, that she could go ahead and sell and give a gift, whatever she got, and Vikayam, and it takes effect. Because again, like I said, truth, she's anticipating to marry this Yavam, so she's already connected to him in that sense, but she's not yet married, so therefore it's still hers. Mesa, what happens if at this point she was waiting for Yibum and she passes away? So now the question is, Ma Yasu, what happens with a few different things that she brings over here into this marriage for the Yavam? So first of all, Ma Yasu b'Kesubos. What happens with the Kesubah money? Right, the Kesubah, which includes actually two things. Kesubah includes, first of all, the money that her first husband owed her for the Kesubah, whether it was 1 mana, whether it was 2 mana. So usually what happens is, when she goes over to the Yavam, she gets married to the Yavam, so now the properties of the Yavam, the brother, again, the properties of the first husband, that is, the properties of the first husband, the Yavam yarshins everything. And when he yarshins it, that money that he yarshin, he also yarshins the obligation to give the Kesubah for his wife. Right, so now that Kesubah money that he got from the first husband, and also included in the Kesubah is something else. When you come to the marriage and the Kesubah, if you remember, we learned before, you write in the properties that she brings into the marriage, which are called Nichsei Tzoyin Barzal, properties that she brings into the marriage, and she wants to write it into the Kesubah, that the husband should take responsibility, whatever value these properties have today. The husband guarantees that if she gets divorced, he will give back to her those properties the way they are today. Okay, so that's the Nichsei Tzoyin Barzal, also that's in the Kesubah. And then you have ubenechasim anachnasim va'yotzenima. Then you have the properties which we always call nichsei malug. This Mishnah refers to them as the properties that come in with her and go out with her. These properties are not written into the Kesubah. These are the properties that she brings from her family or from her father, and it comes into the marriage, and the husband could use them. But then it leaves with her. If she gets divorced or the husband dies, she takes them along with her, and the husband is not taking responsibility for them, for their value, whatever was the day of the marriage. It's not written into the Kesubah. Whatever value it is in the time when she gets divorced or the husband dies, she takes it along with her. Again, this is Nichsei Melug. So the question is, if she died when she was a Shemeres Yavam, what happens with all these monies and properties? So Beishamai Yoimrim, Beishamai say, Yachloiku Yorshei Abal and Yorshei Av. That you're going to split it. You split it between the Yorshei Abal. Who is Yorshei Abal? The one that inherits the first husband. That's the Yavam, the brother. The Yavam is the one that inherits the first husband. So he's going to yarshin this together with Yorshei Av. Okay, so together with the Yarshim of the father, which means basically her family. Yorshei Av, who yarshins her? Her father yarshins her. So if the father is not alive, so her family yarshins her. So over here, when it comes to all these items, so Beishamai says there's a suffix, or there's you can say that the father yarshins it, or you could say that the Yorshei Habal are the ones that yarshin, so therefore they split it. So Rashi here actually says, brings from the Gemara in Yevamos, that Beishamai is saying that you have to split this, it doesn't refer to all the details that was just mentioned here. It mentioned the Kesubah, and then it mentioned the Nechasim and Achnasim va'yotzim, which is Nichsei Melug. So Rashi brings from the Gemara in Yevamos that says that you have to split it between the Yorshei Av and Yorshei Abal. This only refers to the Nichsei Melug. That has to be split. But when it comes to the Kesubah, which has the Nichsei Tzoyin Barzal in it also, that goes only to the Yorshei Habal, that goes to the Yavam, and it does not go to the Yorshei Av. That's the way the Gemara explains it in Yevamos. So Beisil says as follows: Nechasim b'cheskasan. When it comes to the money, and when the Mishnah here says money, the money means the nichsei tzoim barzel, that money or properties that she wrote into the ksubah, which the husband takes responsibility for. So that money goes to whoever has the chazaka over them. Now the Mishnah doesn't spell out who has the chazaka. So Rashi here says it's a machlokes. This is a machlokes in the Gemara in Baba Basra. Who gets the nichsei tzoim barzel? Either the Yavam, which is the Yerush of the first husband, gets it, or the father or the family of the wife, her Yerushim get it. So it's a machlokes about this. The Mishnah here doesn't spell out. Now ksuba, the cheskas Yershi Abal, the ksuba money, which is owed to this isha, that the new husband yarshins this ksuba money, that goes to the Yershi Abal, that goes to the Yavam, or whoever is yarshin the Yavam. The properties that she brings in and goes out with her, which refers to the nichsei melug, so that's b'cheskas Yershiav. That the chazaka is, it goes back to the Yershiav, it goes to her family, because these are properties that she got from her family. She brings it into the marriage, she takes it out of the marriage, back to her family, so it's the chazaka of her family. So according to Basilil, basically, a Yavama that passes away, so over here, as far as inheriting the things that she brought into the marriage, it's split. The ksubah goes to the Baal, and the nichsei melug goes to the Yarshei Ha'av, to her family. Okay, this again? Again? We're talking about a Shemeres Yavam over here. L'chayre, yeah. Okay, but I'm not, the emphasis when it says over here in the Mishnah, Mesa, Mayasa B'Ksubasa, I'm not sure if Mesa means Dafke Shemeres Yavam or even a Yavama. Okay. Sagt the Mishnah weiter. Now, what happens? Hiniach Achiv Ma'ois, if the brother left over money, so the money that he left, who yarshins this money? Again, it goes to the brother. That's doing the mitzvah of Yibum, he yarshins everything from his brother. But what do you do with this money? You lakach ben karka, you're going to have to buy with it a property, and v'hu eichel peiris. And the brother that marries this woman now is only going to get the peiris of it. What's the reason for this? If he's yarshining everything from his brother, why can't he just use it as is? The answer is because all of the properties that he gets from his brother are meshubid, are subjugated to the ksubah that he has to pay to his wife. Because the halacha, we learned this in Masechta Yavamis, the halacha of the ksubah of a Yavama is that the Yavam, the brother, it's not his money or his properties that become a shubah to the ksubah. It's the monies and the properties of the first husband that the Yavam yarshins that becomes totally meshubah to the ksubah. So therefore, any monies that he gets from his brother, he has to leave that, or properties that he gets, he has to leave it meshubah for the ksubah. The most he can do is only eat the paytas of it. And the Tanakama here says the same thing is also paytas atlushim and akarka. If he gets from his brother paytas that are detached from the ground, yulakach ben karka, so he will buy with this paytas a piece of land, and v'huaychel paytas, and he could only eat the paytas of this piece of land, but the land itself is going to be meshubah to the ksubah. So just like if he gets money, he has to buy a piece of land in order for the land to be meshubah for the ksubah. The same is with the paytas. The paytas are meshubah to the ksubah, and therefore he could only buy a land with it and use the paytas. But the land itself is always going to be meshubah to the ksubah.
So ksubah himself takes it.
Again?
The ksubah also yashit.
What do you mean? If she dies? Before we were talking about if she dies. Here we're talking about if she does not die. It stops saying, "B'negei to every single yavam." When he gets any monies from the brother that he yarshins, all whatever he yarshins is meshubah to the ksubah. So therefore, he only can eat the paytas of it, but not it itself. There's another chiddush that you see over here in the opinion of the Tanakama, that he holds that not only are the karkoi is meshubah to the ksubah, but even mois, even money and paytas tlushim, which are metaltalin, are also going to be meshubah to the ksubah. Usually, when it comes to a regular ksubah, the metaltalin are not meshubah to the ksubah. But over here, when it comes to the monies that a yavam yarshins from his brother, over here, even the metaltalin, even the monies and the paytas that are tlushin are also meshubah to the ksubah. But when you have, if he yarshins from his brother, a field which also has paytas that are connected to it, so Amar Rab Meir says this is also meshubah to the ksubah. So Shaman Noisan, you have to evaluate this kama and yafim bepaytas. What's the value it has with the paytas, v'kama and yafim beloy paytas, and what's the value it has without the paytas? In other words, you have to evaluate these paytas as well. V'ha'maisar yulakach ben karka, and the difference when you see the value of what these paytas have, so that you can sell and you buy with it a karka, and v'hu oichel paytas. The Yavam could only eat the peiros of it, but the value of those peiros itself, you have to leave for a karka to be meshubit to the ksuba of his Yavama. The Chachamim say, peiros hamechabarim bekarka, if you get from your brother, if the Yavam gets from the first husband, his brother, peiros that are connected to the ground, shaloi, that he can keep for himself. Okay, this is something that's very hard to understand. Why could he keep it for himself? It should be meshubah to the ksuba. The Gemara will ask on this, and the Gemara will change the girsei and the Mishnah. But then Chachamim say hatlushin min hakarka, if he gets from his brother peiros which are detached from the ground. So over here, the Chachamim hold that only karka is meshubah to the ksuba, but any metaltalin is not meshubah to the ksuba, and therefore here the halacha is going to be kol hakaidim zacha behen. Whoever grabs it first will be zaych in it. What does that mean? Kadam, who, if the yavam grabs hold of it, so zacha, he'll be zaych to it, and it will not be meshubah to the ksuba. Kadmahi, but if the Yavama grabs it, so then now it becomes hers. Meaning, what hers in what sense? It will become a shubha to the ksuba. Okay, so this is a very interesting halacha. Rashi says this is based on a Mishnah later that says that there's a din of tfisa, meaning that when you have it's speaking about peiros, but the same thing has also been negate to money. Any metaltalin that is brought into the marriage from the first husband, so the metaltalin itself is not going to be meshubah to the ksuba, only karka. But if she grabs it for herself, then it will become, through the tfisa that she grabs it for itself, then it will become meshubah to the ksuba. And then yilakach ben karka, you'll have to buy a piece of land with this, and v'oichel peiros, and you can only use the peiros of it because it itself becomes meshubah to the ksuba. Now kinsa, when he marries her, harei ki'ishtoi l'chol davar, she's his wife for everything. The Gemara will explain exactly what the Mishnah means to say with this. Besides, the ksuba money that the yavam has to pay her, he doesn't have to pay from his own properties. He pays her with the money that he gets, or with the properties that he gets from the first husband. The yavam should not tell his yavama, here, take a bundle of money. He puts a bundle of money on the table and he says, here, I designate this bundle of money for your ksuba. Don't do that. He can't do that. This is a simple pshat of the Mishnah. All of the money that he got from his brother, everything will be obligated for this ksuba to pay for the ksuba. And v'chein, similar, the Mishnah says, a person should not say to his wife, here, take this money that I put on the table for you, and the money of your ksuba will be collected from this money. Sorry, rather, all of the money, all of the properties that a man owns will become obligated for the ksuba to pay for his wife. Girsha, if a person divorces his yivama, ein la eleksubas eleksuba. So now all she gets is the ksuba, meaning as long as he's married to her, all of the properties from the first husband are meshubah to the ksuba. But once he divorces her, so now she only gets paid the money of the ksuba. That's it. If he remarries her, the halacha here regarding this yavama will be the same as it is with all nashim. And therefore she gets from all the properties only what's meshubit to her is only what she needs for her ksuba alone. What does this mean? So Rashi says this is actually based on a halacha that we're going to learn later in the Masechta here, b'negeya to all nashim. If a person married his wife and then he divorces her and he goes and remarries her. So when he remarries her, the original ksuba that he wrote for the first marriage, that ksuba, that shibud of the first ksuba returns by the second marriage. You don't have to, it's not a new shibud and a new ksuba for the second marriage. When he remarries her, it's the same shibud previously that comes back. So over here as well, what it's saying is that if a person divorces his yivama, the same shibud of the ksuba comes back when he remarries her again. And now she has the shibud of the ksuba on this money. It's not everything, not all the money is going to be meshubit, but only the money that she needs for this ksuba. Okay, the Gemara will explain also the chiddush in this. Okay, the Gemara here, yes.
When the Yashin is ksuba from the first husband, he has to give a different ksuba?
No, this is the ksuba. This is it. Yeah. Okay, the Gemara now will focus on what it said before regarding a shemeres yavam. Okay, so going back to the beginning of the Mishnah when it spoke about a shemeres yavam and she died. So now what did it say? Who yarshins the different aspects of the ksuba that she brings into the marriage, or the nichse malug that she brings into the marriage? Who yarshins this? So what did Beis Hillel say? We split it. And what do I mean by split it? Not split it. Beis Shammai says you split the nichse milug. But what Beis Hillel said is, when it comes to the nichse milug, that goes back to her family, because that's a property that she's bringing from her family, so they yashin that. But when it comes to the ksubah, which includes the shibud of the ksubah of 100 or 200 maneh, or the nichse tzayim barzel, which is in the ksubah, who gets that? So, the Mishnah actually said it's b'cheskasan. According to one opinion, that means that it goes to the new husband, to the yavam. So it's sort of split. So now, in connection to this, the Gemara has the following shaila. Shemeres yavam. So this shemeres yavam shemesa that passed away, mi koivra. Who has the obligation to bury her? Who's going to have to pay for a burial? Do I say Yoshe Abal Kovrila, that the ones that are inheriting the first husband are the ones that have to bury her? Who inherits the first husband? The Yavam. So basically her Yavam, her husband that she was anticipating to marry, he's the one that's obligated to bury her. Why? The Kayarsi Ksuba. Because he yashins her Ksuba. Like it said in the Mishnah, the Ksuba itself that the Yavam gets. According to Beis Hillel, right? Or maybe no, the Yarshim of the father are the ones that have to bury her. Why? Because the Yarshim of the father are the ones that are getting her all of her nichse melug that she brought into the marriage. It goes back to the father's family, to her family. So maybe they're the ones that have to Yarshim. The Kayasi Nechasam Nechnasam Vayetzanima. The Yarshim, the money that she brings in and goes out with her, which again is the nichse melug. That's the shaila. So Rashi says again, the point of the question over here is because there are two people that are inheriting her, so the question is who has to bury her. Usually when a woman dies, who buries her? Her husband. Her husband is the one that inherits everything from her, including all of the nichse melug. So the husband is the one that buries her. But over here, by this shemeres yavam, because her husband that she was anticipating to marry does not fully yashin her, the nichse melug goes to her family. So the question is, who has the obligation to bury her?
So it says that the husband has to.
Okay, right. So over here, but the Yavam though is not yet her husband.
He's guaranteeing the ksuba, everything.
Okay, so let's see. The Gemara is going to discuss this. Let's see. So the Gemara says, Omar Rav Amram. So Rav Amram says, Toshima. So come, I'll tell you. It says here in the Braisa as follows: the Tanya Shemeres Yavam Shemesa. Shemeres Yavam that passed away. So Yershecha, Yershek Subasa, the Yershim that Yashin her Ksube. Chayavim b'kvarasa. They're the ones that have to bury her, which means the husband over here, the new Yavam, which is the one that really yashins her ksubeh, he's the one that has to bury her. Now she brings, we learned already before in the Masechta, that the kvura, that a husband is obligated to bury his wife, is instead of the ksubeh that he gets from his wife. He gets from her ksubeh. In the ksubeh it says the nichse tzayim barzel, properties that she wrote into the ksubeh that the husband gets. So instead of that, he has to bury her. So it says clearly here in the Braisa, Omer Abaye says, Afanan Nami Tanina. We learned this also later in the Mishnah. It says, Almana Nizainis Menichse Yisaimim, and Almana gets fed from the Yisaimim's properties, even if the Yisaimim are not her children, but the Yisaimim have the obligation to feed her. And her income will go to them. And but they are not the ones that have to bury her if she passes away. Who has to bury her? The ones that yashin her ksubah money, they're the ones that have to bury her. Because the ksubah is, the ones that get the ksubah, instead of that, they're going to have to be the one burying her. So the Gemara now it says in this, her children that yashin ksubah. The Yisayimim are not necessarily her children. Her children, the ones that yashin her, they're the ones that are going to have to bury her. Now again?
She doesn't have chayavim.
No. This Braisa is not speaking only about Yibum. It's a Mishnah actually. It's a Mishnah later. The Mishnah is speaking about Stam, every Almana. But now the Gemara will learn out from that Mishnah, even though this is not the simple pshat of that Mishnah, but the Gemara learns out the lashon that it says in the Mishnah there is Yersheha Yershek Subasa. It's an extra lashon of the Mishnah. That's how Taisus explains this Gemara here. Now Ve'ezeu Almana sheyesh lo shnei Yershim. Who is an almana which has two different yershim? The Mishnah uses this lashon of yesher, yershik, subasa, which makes it sound like that really there are two people that are inheriting her, and there's some that are inheriting one part of her, and others that are inheriting only the ksubah. Where do you have a situation that she doesn't have one entity that's inheriting everything from her? Haviyam is the shemeres yavam. This is the shemeres yavam, so we could learn from that Mishnah regarding our case, the shemeres yavam, where you have her family that takes her nichse melug, and you have her yavam that's taking the ksubah itself. So the ones that take the ksubah, they're the ones that have to bury her. Amar Rava, but Rava asks on this psak in here. V'lei ma'ach, why can't the brother, the Yavam, say, okay, no, that's not how you read it, sorry. V'lei me, let the Yavam say, Och, ani Yodesh, I am yashening my brother, I'm getting the ksuba money, I'm getting the Yerusha from my brother. Right, so all that Yerusha money comes to me, and in that Yerusha money, there was the ksuba that I would have been obligated to pay my wife, and I get that now from my brother. I don't have to pay the ksuba, she passed away. So in essence, I'm getting a Yerusha from my brother, and therefore Ishtoi ein ani kaiver. I don't have to bury my wife. What Rav is saying is that l'chayre, the Yavam here is really not getting anything from his wife. He's not getting the nichse malog, because that goes back to her family. The nichse tzim barzel, so Rashi usually l'chayre, the nichse tzim barzel he should get, the Yavam should get. But Rashi over here says that the Rav's question is going according to the opinion that he doesn't even get the nichse tzim barzel either. In the Mishnah it said that the nichse tzim barzel is b'cheskasan. There's a machlokes about that. So over here this Gemara is going according to the opinion he does not get the nichse tzim barzel either. Elamai, what is he inheriting? He's inheriting the properties from his brother, directly from his brother, which were obligated for the ksuba for the wife, but it was only obligated for the ksuba. His wife, or the Shemeres Yavam that passed away now, never got that ksuba money. He's not getting the ksuba money from his wife. He's getting the ksuba money directly from the brother. The properties which were mishubit to the ksuba, but were never actually paid, that is getting directly from his brother. So therefore the Yavam could say, wait a minute, I'm not really getting anything from this Yavama that passed away. Why should I have to bury her? Amalei Abaye, so Abaye says, no, it doesn't work that way. Mishum the boy of Mishnei Tzdadim, because we come to him from two sides. This is what's usually called a mimonavshach. We say to him, either way, you have an obligation here. Im achiv yairish, if you are yashaning your brother, meaning you're taking the place of your brother. So if you are instead of your brother, that's why you yashin everything from him. So yikbar es ishtay. So then you should have an obligation to bury her, just like if the brother, the first husband, was alive and she passed away, he would have to bury her. If you're taking the place of your brother, and that's why you're inheriting everything from him, so you bury her like him. So if you're not going to bury his wife, because you're not taking the place of your brother, so yitin ksubasa. So then you should give her the ksuba. So then you can't say that I don't have to bury her and I keep the ksuba as well. If you're not burying her, so then you should give her the ksuba. So either you're taking the place of the brother, so you should be obligated to bury her. And if you're not taking the place of the brother, so then when the brother passed away, she deserved the ksuba. So let her get the ksuba. You're not taking the place of the brother. If her yarshim, that is correct. If you're taking the place of the brother, so she doesn't get a ksuba yet, because it's like the brother, the first husband, is still alive, because you're taking his place. But if you're not taking his place, v'haraya, you're not burying her, so then pay her the ksuba, because her first husband passed away. So therefore, Abaye says, no, you're going to have to bury her. Amalei, so Rave still asks back and says, no, hachika mina. This is what I meant to say. I still have a question on this. Why would the Yavam have to bury her? Achani Yodesh. I'm yarshening my brother. I'm getting the properties really directly from my brother. Therefore, I have no obligation to bury my wife. This is the point that he said before. That really, he's getting the Yerusha directly from his brother, and so I don't have to. I'm not getting anything from this woman. Why should I have to bury her? You're going to say that if so, that I'm inheriting my brother. So are you asking that if I'm not burying her, so that means I'm not taking the place of my brother. So if I'm not taking the place of my brother, I should have to give the ksubah. But it doesn't. No, I don't have to give the ksubah, because le'nitna ksubah ligmas mechayim. You can't collect a ksubah when the husband is still alive, and therefore he says, since she's a shemeres yavam and she was waiting to marry me, so therefore I'm still alive, and therefore she doesn't collect the ksubah while I'm still alive. Okay, so it's not very clear over here in this question that Rava is asking over here, because if he's still alive and he's taking the place of the first husband, so then he should take the place of the first husband to have to bury her, right? But apparently this point Rava disagrees with. Rava says no. You have to look at whether he's getting something from this Isha. He's not getting a penny from this Isha. So therefore, why should he have to bury her? Are you going to say, if so, pay her the ksubah? No. I'm taking the place of the husband, and therefore I don't have to give her any ksubah, because I'm still alive. Right, so he's sort of saying, Rav is saying that that the Yavam takes the place of the husband is not for everything. We're not going to say that he takes the place of the husband, that he's mamish like the husband himself, which is obligated to bury her. The husband himself is obligated to bury his wife, whether the husband got something from her or whether the husband did not get anything from her. That's the chiv of the first husband. The Yavam, Rav is saying, Enechanami, the Yavam is taking the place of the first husband, but the Yavam will only be obligated to bury this Yeshemeres Yavam if he gets something from her. If he doesn't get anything from her, he's not going to be obligated to bury her on one hand, and on the other hand, he's not going to be obligated to give her ksuba either, because he's alive, and therefore, while he's alive, he doesn't give any ksuba. That's the svar of Rava.
What means he doesn't get nothing from her?
He's getting everything from his brother. No, but it's coming directly from the brother.
Yeah,
he's yashining from the brother, and in the brother's properties there was the money that was meshubah to the ksuba. But this shemeres yavam never yashin the actual ksuba yet. She was still she never it was a shibah for the ksuba, but because she went straight over to the yavam, so the yavam is still alive. She never yashin the ksuba, so he's never yashin the ksuba from her. Okay, so the Gemara says, so he answered him, no, man shametle, the islay medrish ksuba. Now, who is the one that holds that we have to look into the ksuba and we have to look into the specific words and darshan and take the words of the ksuba literally? Okay, so in other words, the Gemara here is saying, as Rashi brings, that this question of Rave is based on the words that it says in the ksuba. What is the words that it says in the ksuba? The Gemara is soon going to quote it. So Rashi here brings, l'kishetenasi la'acher titli mashakasav leichi. When I die and you're able to marry someone else, then you get your ksuba. Those are the words that it says in the ksuba. This is really the basis of what Rav is saying over here. Rav is saying, I got nothing from this woman, so I'm not going to bury her. On the other hand, I is saying I should give her the ksuba, but the words of the ksuba say only when she's able to marry somebody else does she get ksuba. Over here, because she's waiting to marry the yavam, she can't marry anybody else, so she doesn't get the ksuba. So you darshan the words of the ksuba. Who's the one that says that you have to darshan the words of the ksuba? Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai is the one that says that you have to look into the words of the ksuba and darshan it. And therefore we know that over here, this shemeres yavam does not get any ksuba. Now, if you're asking this based on Beis Shammai's opinion, but the Beis Shammai, the Amri, we know that Beis Shammai's opinion is when you have a document that's standing to be collected, it's there, it's available, the shtar is here, and it's waiting to be collected, kagovidami. It's like it's already collected. So in other words, the point that Gemara is saying over here is, because there's a ksubah that says that she has a shibud to collect this money, so even though she never got the money yet, because she was waiting for a yavam, and as long as she's waiting for a yavam, she didn't actually get it yet, but because it's waiting to be collected, it's as if it was collected. So therefore, the husband is the new yavam that is now, the new husband, the yavam, is getting this ksuba money from who? From this isha, not from his brother, because it's as if this isha collected it already. Where do we see that Beis Shammai said that something that's standing to be collected, it's as if it's already collected? That now there's a mission that says in Masechta Saita, that by the halacha of a Saita, where there's a suffix if she was mezana or not, that's the halacha of a Saita, and now she has to drink the waters of the Saita. But what happens if Meisu Balei and Achalei Shasu? If the husband, in any of the cases of the Saita, the husband passes away before she drank the waters of the Saita. So what do we do now? She can't drink the waters of the Saita anymore, as the Gemara is soon going to say. So Beis Shammai Yomer and Beis Shammai say, so Neitlo is Ksubeh, so this wife will get the Ksubeh money, V'loi Shaisais, and she does not drink the waters of the Saita because her husband is not alive anymore. Well, Beis Hillel Yomer and Beis Hillel say, Oy Shaisais, Oy Lei Neitlos Ksubeh. Either she drinks the waters of the Saita, or she does not get the money of the Ksubeh. So first the Gemara explains the tight, simple meaning of the opinion of Beis Hillel. What does this mean? Is Beis Hillel saying that at this point, after her husband died, she could drink the waters of the Saita? How could that be? The Torah said that the man, the husband, has to bring his wife, and if he died, he can't bring her, so she can't drink the waters of the Ksubeh. He's not here anymore. Elo, the Gemara says, what Beis Hillel really means to say is, if she would be able to drink the water of the Ksubeh, so then, again, the waters of the Saita, that is, then we would see if she was mezana or not, and maybe she can get the Ksubeh. But now, because the husband is not alive, and therefore she does not drink these waters of the Saita, so Ksubeh. She doesn't get the Ksubeh either. So here we have a machlekes regarding a Saita. The husband passes away, So Beis Hillel says she doesn't get the ksuba. Beis Shammai says she does. So now how do we explain Beis Shammai? Beis Shammai says that she gets her ksuba and she doesn't drink the waters of the saita. But v'amai, why does she get the ksuba? Sveikuhu, isn't it a suffix? Suffix anoi, suffix lo zanoi. It's a suffix if she was mizana with someone else or not. And if she was, so how could she get the ksuba? Because he's suffix umaitzi midei vadai. Over here, there's a suffix if she deserves the ksuba, and you're taking it away from the husband or the yarshim of the husband, which are avadai. They have the money in their possession, and you could take away the money from them for this wife, which is a suffix, whether she deserves the ksuba or not. Answers the Gemara. So here's where you see Beis Shammai, the source of what Beis Shammai holds, that Ksavri Beis Shammai's opinion is shtar oimed ligbois kagavi dami. A shtar that's standing and waiting to be collected, it's as if it's already collected, and therefore this ksuba of an isha is in her possession. It's like she collected it already. So therefore, it's not like she's being mitzi from the yarshim of the father, that the husband that passed away. It's hers. So therefore, going back to what we said before, when there's a yavam that his sheineres yavam passed away, we consider it that the yavam got the properties that were meshubit to her ksuba. Who did he get it from? He got it from her, because it's as if she already collected that ksuba. So since he got it from her, he's going to have to bury her now in exchange for that. That's the answer that Abaye said. Now the Gemara goes back. This is it's not so clear over here. This next question in the Gemara, it's not so clear exactly what the Gemara is asking. According to Rashi, the Gemara is going back to the svara that it said before. So before we said that the ksuba money that comes from the first husband. So the Gemara started off saying that who is the yavam getting the ksuba money from? The yavam is getting the ksuba money from the first husband, and is not getting it from her, right? And so, in fact, the Gemara v'habeinon kishetanasi la'acher titli mashakosov lechi. So it says in the Kesubos that only when you get married to someone else, so then you're going to be able to collect the Kesubos. But if you can't get married to someone else, you can't collect the Kesubos. Again, so this is actually going back to the svara that Abaye said before. Abaye said before that the reason why he's going to have to bury her is because otherwise he's going to have to pay the ksuba that he took from her. In other words, Abaye before did say that the yavam is getting the ksuba from her, and that's why in exchange he has to bury her. So the Gemara now is asking that even if you're not going to learn like Beis Shammai is the one that says that you have to look into the words of the ksuba, and it says in the words of the ksuba that only when she could get married to someone else, then she gets the ksuba. So therefore, by a shemeres yavam, she doesn't get the ksuba yet because she can't get married to someone else. So the Gemara is asking, even if you don't darshan the ksuba, the way Beis Shammai darshans every single word in the ksuba, but the fact is, isn't that what it says in the ksuba? The ksuba, it says only when she can get married to someone else, then she gets the ksuba. Everybody should agree to this. Even Beis Hillel, that does not darshan the ksuba, should also agree that she doesn't get the ksuba until she can get married to someone else. So over here, the question is before, how did Abaye say before that the husband, the new yavam that is getting the ksuba from her, and therefore he has to bury her in exchange? But she's not getting the ksuba. She can't yet get married to someone else. Ravashi says, yavam nami ka'acher dami. The yavam is also considered to be a acher now after her first husband passed away, and she could get married now to the yavam is considered to be a acher, somebody else, and therefore from that time she is zoiche in this money that is obligated for her ksuba. That's the way Beis Hillel learns. You can read the ksuba that way. So in other words, according to Rashi, the point of what the Gemara is saying is Beis Shammai, which darshan the ksuba, every single word in the ksuba literally will say that when it says in the ksuba kishetanasi la'acher, what does that mean? Not a yavam. Only if she can get married to somebody else, to anybody else, then she gets the ksuba money. Which means not only her first husband died, but also her yavam died. But until her yavam dies, she has no rights to collect the ksuba b'chlal. Mashenken, according to Beis Hillel, he doesn't darshan the words of the ksuba so literally. So even though it does say in the ksuba kishetanasi la'acher, only then you get the ksuba. What does la'acher mean? La'acher could include also the yavam. So therefore, when her first husband died, and now she falls for the yavam, the ksuba money is something that she yarshans already at this point. So now if she dies, the yavam is getting the ksuba from her, and therefore he's going to have to bury her in exchange for that. This is Rashi's pshat in the Gemara. Taisus is other Rishonim. Gemara is not. It's a little complicated, not so clear. But again, this is Rashi's pshat that there's a machlokes here between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says you learn the Kesubah literally, so Acher does not include the Yavam, and Beis Hillel learns you don't learn the Kesubah so literally, so therefore Acher includes the Yavam, that the Yavam is getting the Kesubah from her. And there's another question here on what we learned before. Sholach le Rav ala Abaye. Rav is sent to ask Abaye biyad Rav Shmaya bar Zera. He sent a shliach Shmaya bar Zera to ask him a question. So again, Abaye's shitta before was this shemeres yavam that passes away. She gets the ksubah from the first husband, and then the yavam is yashening these properties that are meshubah to her ksubah. The yavam is yashening it from her, but in essence, she's the one that's getting it. So the question is, could you say that while the Yavam is still alive, she's really the one that gets the properties of the Ksubah, and then he's getting it from her? How could you say that? Well, Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. Rabba said, Sha'alti es Sumches. I asked Sumches the following question. We learned before in our Mishnah that when a Yavam gets all the properties from the first husband, all of the properties are Meshubah to the Ksubah. Everything. Not only the value of the Ksubah, but everything. All the properties are Meshubah to the Ksubah. So now the question is, so now this Yavam wants to sell some of these properties that he got from his brother. What should he do? How does he have the right to sell any of these properties? So he answered him and says, it's like a problem. It's all meshubah to the ksubah. So if the husband is a kayin, so if he's going to divorce her, he cannot remarry her. So what should he do? He's going to have to somehow appease his wife. Yase suda, let her make a big meal, v'yafayis, and he'll appease her, and then maybe she'll agree to allow him to sell some of the properties which are meshubah to her ksubah. Im Yisrael, if he's a Yisrael, so then he could divorce her. Whom begarish beget, he'll divorce her with a get, and v'yachzer, and then he can remarry her. Once he remarries her, not all of the properties will be meshubah to the ksubah. Okay, so Rashi over explains Barichis that first of all he could divorce her, and when he divorces her, so he gives her a ksubah, and then now he goes and sells any other properties that he wants, and then he goes and remarries her. Or Rashi says he could actually remarry her right away. Once he remarries her as a regular wife, now not all the properties are meshubah to the ksubah. Only by a yavam do you say that all the properties he got from the first husband is meshubah. But when he remarries her, not everything is going to be meshubah to the ksubah, and he's going to be able to sell. That's the eitzah that this Braisa says if a husband wants to sell the properties. But if you're going to say that really the ksubah could be collected even when the yavam is still alive, right? That's what we're saying over here. That when she passes away, so Abaye says that the yavam is really getting the ksubah from her. That she collects it and he's getting it from her. If so, let us say the same thing over here. If the husband wants to sell any properties, even though it's all meshubah to her ksubah, the yachad la shir ksubah, let him specify a certain property in the amount of the ksubah that he'll collect for her, and v'hashar Lisbon, and the rest he could sell. If he's saying that even while the yavam is alive, she could collect the ksubah from him, that there's such a thing that mechayim, even while the yavam is alive, when it says in the ksubah the word acher, that she could marry someone else, that includes even the yavam, and therefore the yavam can give her the ksubah at this point. So let him designate money for the ksubah, and he can sell whatever else he wants. Says the Gemara, according to Rava that's asking this question. Who is it over here? Yeah, Rava sent this question to ask Abaye. Why asking only from this Braisa? Ask this Mishnah on our Mishnah. What did it say in our Mishnah regarding a Yavam? A Yavam should not say to his Yavama, here is the Ksubah, I give you money for your Ksubah here on the table. All of the properties that come from the first husband are obligated for the Ksubah. So why is the Mishnah saying that? Why can't the husband come and designate monies for the Ksubah? If you say that you could collect the Ksubah mechayim while the Yavam is still alive, answers the Gemara from the Mishnah, it's not a question. Because in the Mishnah you could say it's not telling you that he can't do this, it's just giving you good advice that he shouldn't do this. That the husband should not go and do this because, as Rashi says, it's Eitz Tova if you're going to designate money that's going to be collected to your wife for the Ksubah. What happens if that money gets lost? So now you're going to lose that money and you're going to have to give it from somewhere else. So don't put aside money for this purpose. And the Gemara proves this. If you're not going to say that our Mishnah is just giving you an Eitz Tova, So what does it say in the Sefer? So Sefer Diktani, the next thing it said in the Mishnah was regarding every husband and wife. A man should not say to his wife, that here's your ksuba money, it's here on the table. All of his properties are going to be obligated for the ksuba of his wife. Now, is that true by a regular marriage of a husband and his wife? All of the properties he owns are meshubah to the ksuba, and he a husband could never sell any of his properties because all of his properties are meshubah to his wife. That's not true. That's only by a yavam that we say that all of the money that the yavam got from the first marriage is meshubah to the ksuba, not by a regular marriage. So why does it say here in the Mishnah that he can't give her money and say that you can collect the ksuba from here? So in this case of the Mishnah, you have to say that it's just giving good advice, that you might lose that money, so don't designate it for the ksuba. So too in the first part of the Mishnah, when it's saying that a yavam shouldn't do this, it's only an eitzah teva. So from there's no question. But the Rab Abba kashya. But the Braisa from Rab Abba, when over there Rab Abba asked, how could we get the yavam to be able to sell any of the properties? And he gives the eitzah, you have to make a meal to appease her, or he has to divorce her. Over there, that's a question. Why does he have to do that? So the Gemara answers that Rab Abba nami lekashya. What Rab Abba said is also not a question. Mishom Eve. Over there as well, it's also not me'ikir adin. He would be allowed to designate her money for the ksuba, according to Abaye, that you could designate the money, even while the yavam is still alive, you could designate that money for her, but mishum eva. The only reason why the Braisa says you should not do such a thing is because it's going to bring hatred between the yavam and the yavama, because the yavam is going to say, why are you designating this money for me for the ksuba? You want to divorce me? So it's only mishum eva, but me'ikar adin, he could designate this money for her, even when he's still alive.